Hello and welcome to Butterfly Journeys Midlife Adventures, where we share real stories of travel, transformation and new beginnings. I'm your host, Joanna Filmer, and I want you to know that midlife is our time to step beyond expectations and to use travel or even a relocation as a powerful tool for rediscovery and reinvention. Let's go. Pamdiana, hello, welcome to the podcast. I've been looking forward to this one. I've been reading your book, laughing out loud at some of your adventures. For the listeners, let's find out, where are you now? And maybe you'll tell us a little bit about your name, because I think your name is quite interesting.
Well, thanks for having me on, Joanna. Thanks for that introduction. I'm an author now, and my writer pen name is Pamdiana Jones, as a spoof on the old Indiana Jones movies. So my books are written about my adventurous travels around the world. So I thought my adventure people would get me.
Yeah, and we were just talking about the cover of your book. It's got the, it looks kind of like that stylized of Indiana Jones. You never know what the adventures are going to be that you take. So for anyone who hasn't read it yet, can you tell us a little bit about the story and what inspired you to write it?
Sure. I'm 54 this weekend. So 30 years ago, when I was 24 in the 90s, my moving truck was stolen a couple years earlier. And while that was devastating at the time, it freed me to end up doing what I did, which is pack a small bag and move to a ski resort town called Park City, Utah, where I met a young man named Jay who was going surfing if I wanted to go. And we weren't dating, so I thought, sure, I'll go. Well, the ticket was $1,175, and I had $1,200 to my name. So I said, yeah, sure. And I handed him all my money, and we were leaving in 30 days. And that is how it gave me enough time to sell my car. So we were supposed to go for 3 months in South Africa, but halfway through, his sister got married, so we ended up parting ways. And he had taught me to travel so cheaply that I only spent $900 in 3 months. So I'm talking dirt cheap. Sleep in the car. We bought a car there and we sold it before he left. Sleep on people's couches. Eat white rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, people. I'm a foodie. That's a big problem for me, but it's $2 a week for the food. So that really helped save money. But we ended up cruising the whole entire coast of South Africa before he left. And then on the way home, my flight to Los Angeles stopped in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And I asked the stewardess, can I get off the flight? And she said, yeah, your ticket's good for a year. So I continued on through Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. And then I still only spent $1,000 in 4 more months. And I thought Australia and New Zealand are right there. And I just started working along the way. So this trip ended up lasting 3 years in my 20s.
Wow. So you describe yourself as a California girl who set off on a 3-month trip that accidentally lasted like 3 years. What was happening in your life then that you made that leap? So when Jay said, okay, come, and you was like, well, I've only got this much money, but I'm going to do it. What was the thinking when you was in that space?
My grandparents were British. My grandfather worked for British Airways. They lived in Egypt and South Africa for 10 years. And then my mother went to Kenya and Tanzania in the 70s. So they lived there in the 1930s. So his job, he worked for the airways and he cleared the hippos from the Nile so the water planes could land. And he ended up helping design where the airports would be that we use today. So very interesting life. Both grandparents and my mother's stories from Africa. I grew up with those adventurous stories. So when an opportunity came for me to go, I knew it was in my blood.
So you kind of, I guess you must have just been inspired by them, and there wasn't fear built into it either, was there? There would have been just like that sense of adventure that would have given you, yeah, I can go and do this as well because my grandparents did it. So you traveled solo through Africa, Asia and Australasia in the 90s, which was the same time I did as well. No phones, no maps, no translation apps. What was it like then, especially as a young woman out in the world alone? What do you remember most about how you felt as a young solo woman traveling then?
Well, it's funny because if you told me that I was going to travel the world alone for 3 years, I would have thought, no, not me. I never go out to a restaurant by myself or go see a movie by myself. So this was a very jump in the pool with both feet and see what happens. But each day I was just gaining confidence. And I don't know how spiritual you are, but I found myself to be in the flow of the universe, whatever you want to call that, God. was helping go through me of, do I see that town next? Do I hitchhike with this person? Do I eat that weird food? And if I felt like I just had a guardian angel above me just helping me make the right decisions. And that doesn't mean incredibly dangerous things didn't happen, but I always scraped right through without real danger happening.
Yeah, I mean, I read specifically when you was in Africa, some of the things that happened in Africa. I was just like freaking out reading it, thinking, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, don't do that!" But you did it and you survived. Let's just bring it into the now. How would you feel now if you went traveling as a solo woman? Do you think, like at this age, would it be
I
any
feel like I
different?
can I feel like I can do anything because of that trip, so I would go, and I would go to areas that maybe people wouldn't think are as tourist areas, but I don't go looking for trouble. If there's a war zone, I don't wanna go there. There's too many
Mm,
nice places where you don't have to always look over your shoulder. But I've taken my children to some countries that people go, "What have you done there?" And it's like, they have children there too, that country, so I think most people in the world are good people. 90% of the world is good people, and when you actually take a step out your door, you see that.
yeah, I so much agree with that. When you leave your home country and you go to another country, you get to experience that humans are exactly the same wherever you go, and you start to understand. And what did you learn about communicating with other people in different languages? Because there was an interesting quote that you said. You mentioned the beauty of struggling with language barriers. Do you remember that? And you were talking about how it actually became easier in some ways having a language barrier.
Look, I'm from Los Angeles, California. There could not be a more plastic place on the planet where you really have to try to read people's faces or read what did they really mean by this. There's none of that in a language barrier. People would say, "I like you," or "I don't have time for you," or, they find the basic words instead of trying to be polite about it. So it's almost more authentic to have the language barrier where people are struggling a little bit. I know a word that's similar and it fits, but I don't know if it's the most conscientious, thoughtful word, and it doesn't matter. If someone's a good person, it's going to come through whether you know what they meant or not. And I wanted to immerse myself in other cultures. So if I wear American logo t-shirts and American logo baseball cap, I'm never going to meet the locals and stay at your grandma's house. So I think maybe having brown hair and brown eyes, I could be Italian, I could be Brazilian, I could be Persian. Nobody quite knows. So I could really be a local in a lot of places. So once I talked, people heard my accent. And I don't know how many people are traveling now. It seems like a lot more. But in the 90s, not many Americans, especially females that were solo, were out there. I didn't meet a one.
You have a lot of humor in your stories, and I think just from talking to you, I've noticed that you're big on like telling your stories with a real sense of humor. You had some really, interesting encounters and cultural misunderstandings. How does laughter kind of help you cope and move through difficult times?
I think that's the best way to get through a struggle because we're all just humans. We all make mistakes. One of them that I made, someone handed me a mango on a tiny island in Indonesia, and I hadn't cut a mango before. Obviously, I'd had it sliced up at a breakfast buffet or something before, but I said thank you, and I sliced it right down the middle like it was a cantaloupe or a watermelon, and the women just started giggling at me, and I could hit the seed, and they showed me how to slice it down the side a bit more, and they were just so kind that at my ignorance. So how am I supposed to know there's a big fat pit in the middle? I've never seen it. So it's humor shows us that we're all the same on this planet. They giggle with their friends about something you did. You giggle with your friends about something they did. So it all brings us together, I think.
Yeah, I think, and it crosses that cultural barrier of language is what you just spoke about. It's really interesting how laughter and humor carries you through those moments, and you can get through any kind of like misunderstanding. You can work it through. I mean, so you came back to LA, you just couldn't settle because once you start to travel, well, you tell me what happened for you. What's that feeling?
I don't want to give any spoilers, but yeah, once I got home, I had this big worldly thing, and my high school friends are still sitting at the same bar talking about the same beer and the same thing they did that weekend, and it felt like part of my past, not my future. So I moved down south. Back to San Diego for a little while, and I had met a man. Let me back up a little bit. I met a man in Australia just for one day, and he had ridden his bicycle around the world for 25 years. And
Wow.
my first thought was, wow, you're the real Indiana Jones. But my second thought was, you don't have a wife, you don't have a home, you don't have a career, you don't have children. And I realized that cost him everything that I also want. So I
Mm.
didn't want that life where I just traveled. I wanted the home and the kids and the husband and the careers. I thought, let me go home. I'll give myself a 5-year no travel, maybe a small trip here and there, but nothing like this. But I'll go get a career where it enables me to travel and meet people that also want to make a life like I'll just go join travel clubs and kayakers things and start meeting people like I would have done overseas. You know, if I wanted to kayak in New Zealand, I would go rent a kayak and then the kayakers of the day would ask me to go have a beer later. So why not do that in my hometown as well and meet my kind of people? So I took that to San Diego and you're going to laugh. I ended up re-meeting a high school sweetie. So that is my husband. We've been together 22 years now or so, and we moved in together on our very first date. Children, that's what not to do. But
What?
yes, I just signed
Oh,
a condo. I live a little differently than everybody else. I think because I knew him already. We'd been friends for years since high school, but he came down to help me move into my new condo and he never left. So that's our children know that story and what not to do. But we ended up, he moved in when I was 32, then we married when I was 38. And then we had boy girl twins 2 weeks before I turned 40. So each decade has been something new and rewarding in a different way. But his name is Dan, and
yeah.
we traveled once a year to somewhere new for a month every time we went. He'd never traveled before, and he just fell in love with it too. That's how I knew he was my person. But we've taken the children. We're just regular people. We're not wealthy people. We live in a townhome and we drive Toyotas. So now we can afford 4 tickets every 3 years with the children to have a big international trip every 3 years now.
Okay. Where was your last big trip to, out of interest?
We hadn't been anywhere proper since before the pandemic out of the country. We'd been to
Yeah.
Bali and Hong Kong right before the pandemic. And then after the pandemic, my husband had some health issues. So he's fine now, but everything freezes when that kind of thing happens. So I booked a trip to Europe. I'd never been through Europe much. And we went to England, which I'd been to several times. I have cousins there. So the children, we only stayed for a couple days to see, some of the big sites. But our main trip was all through Italy. And we went over to the French Riviera, Monaco. We ended up at Vatican, and then we flew home Norway. So it was a big 6-country little epic journey for a month there. But so we just drove all around Italy.
Lovely. I think it's I guess facing a health issue with someone you love also gives you a different perspective on life and where you're at life, especially at this point in midlife.
Absolutely.
How did that impact you and your husband? Not to get too personal, but like that impact of
Sure.
like, because I'm really big on when you get to this point in life, like what it means.
Well, he's 3 years older than me. I'm 54. He's 57. He had throat cancer, and that is not. You wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy. I just watched my man starve to death. He was 50 pounds overweight, like we all are in our 50s, and he lost 100 pounds. So I just watched him shrivel up to a little tiny thing. He lost his voice for
Wow.
5 months. It was not a good couple years though. So that was straight after the
Wow.
pandemic. So 18 months of cancer and then a couple car
Wow.
accidents. We just had a little black cloud over our head for a little while there. But that is something my children had to go through too. And that helped them learn. You grab the good times when you can, because you never know when something else is coming and lurking around the corner. So, yeah, could we afford this big trip to Italy? Probably not, but we did anyway because we needed to celebrate his health returning and laughter and joy being brought back to our home. So I think even if it's a small town getaway or a fancy dinner or something, that you got to mark those moments too. You got to go to the weddings, not just the funerals.
Pam, thank you so much for sharing that. That must have been a really incredible, difficult time through your life. Do you think that any of the skills that you developed in your traveling life when you were younger helped you to get through those difficult years, the past 5 years?
I'd say absolutely. Everything from having my moving truck stolen, I compare it to people that are going through some of these fires that have lost everything. You kind of just realize I'm still here. I'm still me. I'll just rebuild. So sometimes I just sit back and spiritually observe my own life of this is what we're doing now. So I prefer those when those are fun and, everyone does, but everybody on this planet doesn't get out alive. I think there's an old saying, what made you think everything was going to be pristine and when you lay in your coffin, you look beautiful? No, you should have scars and missing a finger and your eyes poked out and what a ride. So I kind of try to live that way.
Yeah, what a ride. I suppose through your journeys, and I think, when you're in contact with other cultures and you see other different ways of living, you also get a different perspective on life, how life is seen in different cultures, doesn't it? You know, it can help you
Absolutely.
realize that it's not just this like outwardly kind of experience that maybe the West gets caught up in a little bit too much sometimes.
Very much. And on that same note, it seems like a lot of other countries are healthier. I mean, when we were just in Italy, we drank a Coca-Cola, which we just don't drink here, and it took us back to our childhood. Oh, that's the same Coke that we grew up with. We haven't had that in 40 years. It doesn't taste like this in America. So what are they
Wow.
doing? Yeah, why is
So
everybody
did you
else's
find so the on that just recent trip then that you went on, did you find I mean, food is always of interest to me. Did you find food or health was different coming from the States and then going into Europe?
Oh, for sure. We're not big carb eaters. We don't eat a lot of bread and pasta, but over there we were scooping it right up and we still had energy. It wasn't nap time. So that's proof that they're using different wheat and
Yeah.
natural soils and things like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, everywhere we go, we always go, could we move here? Could we retire here? Let's see how much houses are and could we get a little land for a veggie garden?
It does inspire you, doesn't it? You know. So in amongst all of this what's gone on in the last few years, you've obviously made this decision to become an author. What was you doing before and what happened that in midlife all of a sudden you go, "You know what? I'm going to write a book."
Yeah. When I first got back from my second trip after, you'll see at the end of this book that another girl invites me to go all through the South Pacific. So I do go with her. But when I come back and make that commitment to myself that I'm going to not travel for a few years and build the life to share it with people and then continue traveling with them, I moved back to San Diego, which was a hard choice because that's where my truck had been stolen from. But it was so much more. It was a cosmopolitan city. There's people from all over. There's career choices. And I just love the beach. But I got into real estate, which is a natural progression from waitressing, and I got right into it and I loved it, and that's a good career money right there. It's not paycheck to paycheck like I had been living. And this from there I knew I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, so I created my own clothing company and I imported women's clothing from Venezuela and India. And for about 11 years I wholesaled little sarongs with seashells and mirrors on them to cruise ships and bikini shops and things like that. And that added to another more travel adventures. But once the babies arrived, I we struggled to have children, so we did in vitro. So I had the gnarliest pregnancy I've ever heard in my life, months of the emergency bed rest and 500 things that could go wrong did go wrong. So I'm blessed with a boy and a girl twins and happy with, again, with if you knew the journey you had to take, you might have been scared away, but it was worth it in the end, obviously. So I held on for a year or two and my children were born in 2010. So it just kind of was a natural closing down of all of that. But then I got, when the kids were 5, I thought, Eat, Pray, Love really swept the world, that book and
Mhm.
story. And I thought, I love her adventures and that was wonderful for her. But I go, if people want to read about that, I got way more things going on than her book. She had a lovely story, but it was very mild compared with the type of person I am. I drink a beer, I have a cuss word now and then. I thought there might be some more women like me out there too. So I'm scuba diving with a bleeding hand while a shark is chasing me. I'm skydiving. I'm shoved off a bungee platform that I didn't want to go bungee jumping. I've caused a stabbing on the train in Africa on my very first night in the page 1 of the book. I'm chased by a herd of wild elephants. So just random weird things or I look back and I just go, what was I doing out there? Like somebody, my guardian angel is exhausted. They're just drinking whiskeys, just going, Pam, do not do this. So I, I think there might be some people that think that's pretty funny too. And even if nobody liked it, I wrote it for me. What if I want to read it when I'm 99 and go, that's something that I'm proud of?
Did you have to Was it a midlife shift, do you think? Was there something that was changing in you that brought that forward? Or was it just a natural progression? What do you think kind of brought that forward? Because I really think that midlife does bring about this point where we kind of go, you know what, I think I need to change things. I don't feel like that's really representative of me anymore, or I feel this, or,
Yes.
it can bring up a lot of different things. Was that how it happened for you?
Absolutely. I'd always thought, oh, it would be fun to be a writer, but who's going to listen to my little old story? And then I thought, why not me?
Mm,
She wrote
mm.
her story down. That's all she did. I always wanted to be a writer, and let me see if I can do it. So every night, it took me 3 years to write the book, and then I got financially burned by a couple of editors, which is the universe's way of telling me you better learn your craft a little better. You can't hire all these people to do what you should be learning. And that's not saying that I shouldn't also have a team, but I couldn't find the team in the timely manner. So I thought, let me take 2 more years and learn to edit. So I Googled, what do editors look for? And it's funny, you learn little things like as women, we write just and that way more than men do. So I cut all those out of my book, and I used way more exclamation points and I cut all those out. So it's a stronger book now that I took that time to polish it up. But I was 45 when I started writing it and 50 when I published. And
Mm.
to be a late blooming mom, a lot of my friends are grandparents at this age. So here I am with, little kids getting in kindergarten and trying to start a new career. But it's who I am now. I don't
Yep.
have to be tied to that. And it's who I want to be as well. At what age do you go, oh, I know everything, I've done everything? I hope that's never. I hope I'm 102 and I look back at 99 and go, that's the old me. I still want stuff to do when I'm 103. So it's curiosity and spontaneity. If you can hold on to those things, you're going to live a long, happy, healthy, fun life. My husband's grandfather, we just lost him a few years ago, and he was in his late 90s, still selling real estate, he lost his wife of 60 years, and he met Betty on Match.com, and they lived together for 8 years, and he would take her dancing once a week, and it's like, that's the old age you want, I think, that most people would strive for if their health allows it.
Yeah, you touched on a couple of things there. I think I had this conversation with Tracy actually the other day with one of the other women, and we talked about curiosity. Curiosity is huge. If you're not curious, then you're not going to be inspired to keep moving forward, to keep learning,
Right.
to keep taking risks. And spontaneity is huge, isn't it? Taking those risks. I think for a lot of women as well, when they go traveling, they're starting to realize, I see more conversations talking about, having that kind of like a loose itinerary, not just a kind of like
Yeah.
set, I've got to do this, and that, because actually kind of reflects life. In life, you never know what's coming. You just said it. You never know what's coming towards you. And
Yeah.
traveling's a really good way, isn't it, to learn that, you need to be resilient and you need to kind of just roll with whatever comes towards you. So what do you think changed for you during that creative process? What growth did you go through?
Well, every author goes through this, but I think being a memoir writer specifically, it's a little different because I'm reliving what I went through. So my heart goes out to the people that are writing about health problems or losing a loved one or something, because you relive that book 500 times when you read it every time. But
Mm,
so I'm reliving my 20s while I'm cozy and comfy in my jammies in my bed in my 50s. So it's kind of funny because I'm like, I don't want to hike that volcano anymore. I want to take a picture of it, but I'm so glad I traveled then because
yeah.
we do travel now, but it's just different.
Yep.
Back to the European trip, I had a hurt knee, story of my life. I get hurt right before we go. Some dog smacked into me at the dog park, and I'm in a wheelchair for the first week and then crutches the rest of the 3 weeks on cobblestone roads in a 110-degree heat wave in Disneyland crowds. And I'm
Oh my
just
goodness.
and I get laryngitis in Venice. So I can't even say excuse me to people. So I'm just getting smacked around. So there's funny things that happen. I mean, most people would think that's miserable, but I just thought it was hilarious. And that's definitely going to go in book 3 one day. But to let life get you down and say, sit down and go sit in the easy chair and drink your hot cup of cocoa. At this age, I think you have to fight it.
Yep.
I signed my kids up for martial arts, and the first class was free to anyone. So I took it. So I loved it. We've all 3 been going to martial arts for 3 years now because I'm like, I'm not going to sit there. Like I see all the moms on their phones while their kids are doing it. Now we're now in the adult classes and things, but it's a very small group of people that want to do that at this age. Most
Yeah.
people are much younger in that class. I'm like, okay, I still need my physical strength. And my body is not perfect by any means. I love my pizza night and tacos and chocolate chip cookies. There's a freedom in not needing to be the sexiest woman in the world anymore either. Like when you're 19, you think you have to be, and at 50 now you go, I just want to not wear makeup and put my hair in a bun, and who cares? There's
Yeah, look, I'm the same. Is putting on your
yeah,
your PJs and being completely comfortable. I love that.
yeah, just everything, pajamas. I remember being 24, working at the restaurant in San Diego, and MTV Spring Break was coming to town, and I couldn't wait to get down there and check it out. I was 22, and my girlfriend was 29, and she goes, "You couldn't pay me to go down there." And I thought, she's so boring. And then when I was 29, I'm all, "You couldn't pay me to go down there." So it really is the natural flow of life that you you want that excitement when you've just got out of your teenage years and you're a brand new adult and you want to go see everything. And then pretty soon you're like, I've seen it. I've done it. Got it, you
Yeah.
know? But in a way of that should shift. Now I do want to go. Like we just took our dog to Dog Beach and had a wonderful day yesterday. So that's a more family oriented time in my life, but it's always outdoors. We're always doing something outdoors.
Yeah, I love the outdoors. I think you just taught I mean, one of the most important things at this stage in life is health. And I think it's really inspiring that you said there about joining the class and doing
Yeah.
the what did you say it was? Was it karate?
It's Krav Maga. No, Krav Maga, which is a Israeli military combat fighting. So it's a
Right.
yeah, you're
Okay.
punching people in the throat and throwing sand in their eyes and the whole thing. So it's not bow to your neighbor. It's get away from the bad guy that's trying to get you in the van, you know?
Right, okay, so it's like kind of full on self-defense. That sounds
Yeah.
I think that's really inspiring that you went there with your kids, and instead of just sitting there and watching, you've decided that actually I need to be doing this for myself as
Yeah.
well, and actually it's better for me to be involved rather than just sit on the sidelines on my phone, because it's so easy, isn't
Sure.
it, to and you
Yeah.
said that, it's so easy to sit on your phone and let life pass by, but you've hit 2 things there, is that you need to get involved and you need to keep healthy, because for me now, you know that your knees are going. I feel my knees
Yes.
going. I feel my back
Yes.
aching. Like the other day we went somewhere and we stood up for 4 hours and I was like, "Oh, my back's killing me now." It's
Yeah.
it's keeping strong. It's really keeping strong. So, your body starts to remind you exactly like that. You're not 25 anymore, that's it. So, for
Yeah.
women that are listening to all of these things that you've gone through and they might have these ideas or they've got a story to tell, and they're sitting there thinking about, not me, what would you say to them about starting now?
Why not you? What if you love
Mm,
it? At least
true.
try it. What if you hate it? Then you go home and be exactly who you were yesterday. If you love it, though, you're going to be a whole new person who because of that martial arts, I walk through life a little bit more confident. I got around the world with my dumb smile. Oh my God, you've seen a few things that I almost got attacked in Africa, and luckily Spanish flew out of my mouth and the bad guys didn't know what to do. If I didn't have that guardian angel watching over me, oh my God, that would have been the end of me, I'm sure. So to now walk with my children, like we're putting groceries in the car, and if there's a bad guy nearby, God bless him, he's gonna have to pick another family. We feel that confident now, pick someone else, go away from us. So that is a whole other level that I didn't even know was missing from my life until I went to sign my kids up for a free lesson.
Mm,
So take a small it doesn't have to be that, but go take a cooking class, go learn to play chess, learn to play piano. I think sometimes of that old movie Groundhog's Day, how he's in that
mm.
cycle over and over and he's selfish and he doesn't get his way out of it until he starts helping the town he's in and he learns to play piano and speak other languages and goes catches someone that's falling out of a tree and stuff. So that pushes me forward. So it's go find your passion and your passion might change. What if you love gardening now and you never loved bugs outside? Now you're like, hey, I love it. And who cares? I'll just wipe that bug off my shoulder and look at this flower blooming. So it doesn't have to be adventure, adrenaline junkie, but it could be something new. Just try something new all the time.
Try something new, just keep going for it. Be curious and be spontaneous. Spontaneous, I can't get my word.
Well,
Be
I heard the best
be
thing.
curious and spontaneous.
Somebody said you're never going to be as young as you are today, and you're never going to be
Mm,
have this much knowledge from what you have lived. So this is the prime of my life when most people think it's your 20s. It's like, no, no, no,
yeah,
I didn't have any money
no.
in my 20s. I had a little bit, I wasn't as achy or whatever, but I didn't have the wisdom that I have now. So,
Yeah.
when I'm 70, I'm going to wish I had this body. When I'm 90, I'm going to wish I had the 70-year-old body. So who cares? Get out there.
It's so true. That is such a true thing to say, because you spend especially when you're younger, you worry about what you look like and what you say and where you go. You worry so much more in
Yeah,
different ways, and then you get to this age, and you do get. And I love this age actually, because you're just like,
me
this
too.
is me. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to make these decisions. I don't want to do that
Yeah.
anymore. You're quite happy to say no. I don't want to come. I'm just going to sit at home in my pajamas.
You
Or
don't need a
you're going to
reason. You
say,
just come, yeah.
yeah. Or you're going to say, I'm going to take that trip. I'm going to go and take that trip. I'm going to book that trip. I'm going to go and do what I want for me. Why shouldn't I? Why not? Or I'm going
Yes.
to write the book. Why not?
Yes. Well, that has opened so many more doors for me. I've met so many other authors and I'm reading their adventures and they're reading mine. And these people have become great friends and great
Mm.
alliances on trying to move this forward. One gal was texting me. I hadn't talked to her in a few months, and she goes, "Hey, what do you think of this new cover?" And I'm, "Oh, what if you switched it that way?" And she's, "Oh my, great." I go, "Oh, turn that thing white instead of black." She's like, "Yes." And now that little exchange, I've got her book on my desk, and it's like I helped create that, and it's out in the world too, even though it wasn't my baby, So she does that kind of thing for me too. And as authors, again, as a memoirist, you have to say, how honest are you going to be? Are you going to be
Yeah.
real?
Mm.
So for a few years, my book was all woohoo. I went bungee jumping. And then I met an older lady and she goes, "No, Pam, all the things you don't want to write, that's your book." And I'm so glad she said it to me, because I would not have it included some of the conversations that were a little controversial, maybe, and a struggle to hear sometimes how other cultures live. But this is the conversation I had. These were the times of our lives. And sometimes that can help you go, oh, that's why they're struggling still, because half the people thinks this way and the other half thinks that way. So to read the newspaper in LA is quite different from walking through Durban in South Africa. You find out different things than you would ever know about.
Yeah,
It's
it's real life in a different
real, it's
context.
authentic.
You said something there about, which was really important, about stepping into a new space and the new connections and new friendships that you've made. And I think that's really important in midlife. It's a huge part of midlife, I've learned. You start to make these new connections and you don't know what's going to come from those connections.
Well, I think too, we can be, women want to connect. We need it
Yeah.
more than men do, I think, sometimes. And it's now everybody's got their phone. I mean, just on this little last Italian trip, we made nice friends, but nobody that's going to be a lifelong friend, like
Mm.
my travels from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So I have teenagers, they have phones, but we waited until 8th grade to give them to them. And we go out to dinner or something, and the waiter just goes, "How are you doing this without tablets when they were little, without a tablet in front of their face?" It's like, you sit and you talk like we've done for thousands of years. What do you mean?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? So I find we are on the hunt for other people that also want teenagers. We still walk around the mall. We still go to the beach. So that kind of teenage life for them is they're going to look back and be so grateful that we made them wait to get their phones. And I think I naturally have become friends with their parents, the parents of their friends. So
Mm.
that's been another new shift in as a later mom, that my friends that are grandparents maybe already had found that group too, because there was quite a bit of lonely days while I was traveling too. That I wasn't just all perfect and everything was going well. There was sometimes of like, "Ooh, should I go home today?" And I'm not feeling the vibe of this country. And you work through that too, which also shows you can get your mind right and push through the tough days and get back to who you want to be instead of just what's happening now. And sometimes doors will shut in your face and okay, it's time to turn and go this way. So sometimes you push through and turn every stone until you just go, "It's out of my hands now. It's in the universe's hands, and this isn't for me anymore. The door is shutting, and I'm going to go find my new passion." So that's
Yeah.
okay too.
Yeah, taking risks. It's taking risks, isn't it? It's a short life, so take the risk. If it's something that you have an interest in and it's something that gives you joy, then go for
Yeah.
it because you don't, like we said, you never know what's going to happen. Today's what you've got. Just take that opportunity. So if you could go back and speak to your younger self before you leapt off into that adventure, what would you tell her?
Oh gosh, let me preface that a little bit by going back to the very beginning of my book is a prologue where I'm a waitress and I'm waiting tables in Los Angeles and I'm waiting on Rod Stewart and I don't know that that's Rod Stewart. I know it looks exactly like him, but I'm so dumb that I'm thinking that guy's just thinking he's a big schmooze and he's cut his hair like Rod Stewart. Well, he asks me to be in a video and I pause the book there and you go through all my travels and then I explain what happened at the end. But he ends up walking away, and I am going, that was a missed opportunity. I should have just said yes. And I keep thanking Rod Stewart sometimes throughout my book, but he'll never remember me, but me cracking jokes and not. And I said, no, I don't want to be in the video. So, spoiler alert right there. But most people would think, oh, you maybe were in the video and then you got the money to go on this trip. And it's like, no, 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 no. So I'm tying it together with Rod Stewart. But that exchange, I saw my life go in kind of two different directions. Oh, if I hadn't been too shy or too awkward or why me? No, an opportunity presented itself and I was not prepared to take it. So
Mm.
now I'll just say yes, I'm prepared and I'll get prepared while I'm figuring the whole thing out. So I think of him sometimes and just a tiny exchange like that had really changed my life. I would tell that girl, even though you turned it down, your life's going to be 10 times more fabulous than if you had filmed a stupid video, So, because I was gutted right then, like, oh, what have I done? So it's, if I had taken the video, maybe I would have been in a couple commercials or something like that, but I don't want to be on camera. That's not who I am. So maybe that's why that happened. But it's that allowed me to say yes to Jay, yes to the bungee jumping, yes to the other stuff throughout the book because of that moment. So I think you
Saying
can
yes to opportunity.
yeah, you
Saying
can
yes
see
to
it more
opportunity.
clearly. And at this age now, you can see it clearly that that doesn't happen every day.
Yeah,
How often
listening
do
to
you
your
get
intuition as well, because that's the other thing that kicks in, isn't it, at this age?
well, I think I got a little head start on that again because of my book, traveling around the world by myself as a girl. Do I hitchhike with that person? Do I eat this sandwich? Do
Mm.
I go to the next town? It became a muscle, and I instantly knew no, yes, no, no,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
So once you get home and you're watching your Seinfeld reruns and eating a cheeseburger, it fades away a little bit and you have to work towards it. But I know what it felt like. And sometimes people try to talk you out of that. Oh, you don't really feel this way about that person. No, I actually do.
yeah,
And thank you for reminding me that I have a power in my voice and I don't wanna be around them anymore. So
yeah.
that's
Yeah, I think I think you have it when you're like, you have it, you've always have it. It's a sixth sense. And you do listen to it when you're younger, but not all the time. But I think at this point in midlife, you have the wisdom and you have the
yeah,
experience and you start to trust yourself a lot more as well, don't you? You kind of, there's a bit more trust, maybe there's a bit more space, there's a bit more time there to kind of go, actually, yeah, no, that doesn't feel right. That's not going to
mhm.
work. Or yes, this feels right. I'm going to take this opportunity. This is what I'm going to go for. So with the book that you've just written, and you said that you're now got another book that you're going to come out with, continues the travel adventures. But I think
Okay.
you said also that you have some other works in the pipeline. Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that before we leave, before we
Sure.
go.
I'm 20 pages away from the second comedy travel memoir. I end this first book with a gal that says, "You wanna continue traveling through the South Pacific?" And I said, "Yeah," because of Rod Stewart. So that next book is gonna be called Roaming Oceania, and I'm nearly done with that
Wonderful.
one. In the interim, I found my grandfather, the adventurer from the who worked on the Nile. He came up with a treasure hunt, and it was hiding in our attic for 60 years, starring my
No
mother
way.
at 13 looking for treasure on Oak Island, which is a real place with real treasure that they cannot get to. They can see gold on the end of the drill, but they can't get to it because ocean water rushes in. So this is called The Secret of Oak Island by Bertram Smith, but you can find it through Pamdiana Jones as well. So I enhanced it a little bit and published it, but it's kind of like a Goonies adventure for
Oh, I love that movie.
yeah, for like 10, 11, 12 to maybe 10 to 15-year-olds or something like that. So perfect age there. And then I've created a children's adventure series. I'm going to call it the Something series, but I just published this a few days ago. It's called Something Weird on Christmas Eve. It's a first chapter book with pictures going through it. See, they're meeting Santa there, but it's a chapter
Cute.
every couple pages and a it's a magic portal that my kids find. It's about my twins. I wrote this in the pandemic and finally got it illustrated. So this first one, they go off and meet Santa Claus and magic portal. So I've got a few of those already written and they're just waiting to be illustrated. But I can
I
write a
love
hundred of
that.
these if I have the time. So it's a little thin book and kind of for maybe 6 to 10-year-olds somewhere in there that might enjoy a fun adventure as well. So I've just turned into an adventure author in my 50s,
You
and
have.
that has been so fun for me. That kind of ties together all my experiences and what I want to do.
Amazing. I love it. Thank you so much. What a midlife adventure you're on. And you've
Thank
shared
you.
so much enthusiasm and some really wise points to encourage and inspire other women to make the change and say yes to opportunity.
Wonderful.
Pamdiana, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the
Thank
rest
you,
of your day.
Joanna.
You've been listening to Butterfly Journeys Midlife Adventures with me, Joanna. Until next time, may you keep awakening, emerging, and evolving on your own midlife butterfly journey. Follow the podcast, hit subscribe, and share it with your fellow midlife butterflies. And if you have a story to share, reach out. My emails and DMs are in the show notes. I would love to hear from you. Your journey could inspire another woman.